Hello, YouTube Model Railroad fans. Welcome to the Santa Ana Industrial Lead expansion plan video. It seems I've started 2022 out right, as this is my second video of the week, surprisingly. That will slow down. Do not expect that going forward. I have a tough time making a video a month. But anyway, let's get into it. Subscribers for supporting the channel. And I would encourage anyone who is not subscribed to subscribe and also click the bell icon to be notified when there is new content. And of course, if this is content you like, please click the like button. Thank you. And last thing before we begin, just some quick shout outs and thanks to some people who helped in the design process, knowingly or unknowingly. Obviously, Byron Henderson, who's the layout designer, his website is www.layoutvision.com. He did the design, and he did my previous design, and he's done tons of designs for Model Railroader, Model Railroad Planning. He's got some videos on YouTube through some channels. I encourage you to check him out. And then everyone else there is just some research, some YouTube research sites, forum members from trainowners.com, and some photographers on railpictures.net. So thanks, everyone. So this video sort of has 5 parts. First is just kind of an overview of the Santa Ana Industrial Lead LA area prototype overview. And then kind of the operations plan, quick overview of how it'll operate, my new layout, or the new plan. And then we're going to go into some details, some of the industries, signature scenes, etc. I'm kind of going to walk around the layout or the diagram and show you some of the stuff, the research I did and what's going to be on the layout. And after that, if you want to stick around, I'm going to show some of the design iterations, like how we got from the beginning to the last version. So there was 8 to 10 versions and various design iterations that Byron did, and with my feedback and some Zoom calls, we got to the final design. In the very end, I'm going to walk through the room with the camera and kind of show you where stuff will be. So that's kind of how it's going to go. All right, so for this first part, I'm just going to give you a real quick overview of the area, kind of in general, and then the area I am modeling. So this is the LA area. You got LA right over here, Inland Empire, and Inland Empire is all this. And West Colton Yard, where most of the freight originates from, for at least Orange County, is way over here. So the tracks go like this, and there's Los Nitos Yard, which is another kind of yard for the UP. And then over here is kind of my phase 1 design or layout that's already up. And then down here near Disneyland is the phase 2 that we're going to talk about today. So if I go a little more zoomed in, so the current layout, which is Buena Park, La Mirada, Santa Fe Springs. So that's where all my industries are today. So to go ahead southeast towards Anaheim, and this blue circle is where the yard is for the new layout. It's like 2 tracks. It's called the Long Pass and the Extension, and also the Anaheim yard where they store the power. That's here. So then you have this whole area is just different industries around Anaheim. Let's see the street running, which we'll see, and the various industries. And then these are some of the areas I wanted to model, but we just didn't have enough room for Orange, California. Out here, there's 3 industries. And I really wanted this down here in Costa Mesa, local Behr Paints. We just couldn't make it work. And this is it's a Stanton Industrial Lead. If you guys follow SoCal Scale Models, he has a couple, I think 2 or 3 industries off here. And at the very end of his line, I believe Reliable Lumber is down here, and that's where his little taco stand is. But right next to Huntington Beach down here. So if you guys follow his channel, that's where some of his industries are, and he also has a couple in this area too. So anyway. So first thing is I want to walk you through the entire layout, including what will be, which is the new part, and then what we have currently. And talk about how the flow of the operations will go, and how the, if I have an op session with multiple people or myself, how it'll just kind of work. So magically I have this little drawing with some stuff marked. So we're going to start out here, and this is an outside staging outside of the train room. It kind of just runs parallel to the wall here. I'm not sure how long I'll make it. Depends on the wife's acceptance of the layout being outside the train room. But anyway, here is where we'll have the haulers, which I've shown in some other ops videos, but basically around Southern California, and I think this is an old Southern Pacific term. They have haulers, different haulers that carry freight from West Colton Yard, and there's a yard in LA, and I think a yard north in Van Nuys, California. But they have different haulers that carry 100-car trains to, say, four different locations and drop 20, 25, 20, and 20, whatever, at each of kind of little mini yards, local yards. And from there, the local job will pick those cars up and deliver them to the final destination. So for my layout, it's called the Anaheim hauler. And they have a loaded hauler which goes westbound around. It goes from Colton is east of LA and east of Orange County, so it's a westbound. And then the same hauler, the same power will pick up the empties the next day on the way back. It's called the eastbound hauler, and it has a specific name. I don't know it off the top of my head. So let's say we have a loaded hauler. We're going to come into the room, and it's going to go past the old part of the layout first. So the hauler is the kind of the red arrows and red letters. So the first stop is here at it's Valley View Road yard. It's like 2 tracks in front of Capital Foods. So it'll drop off its cars for these 4 industries. And then it'll continue on over the ridge. So now it's off the old layout onto the new layout. And there's another mini yard here. So this is stop B for the hauler. Well, it'll drop the loaded cars for the LOA 32 local, which is called the Marlboro, and there's a couple others that run out of here depending on the day of the week. Then the hauler drops those. It's the last stop of their haul, and they tie up over here in the yard for the night. So the next day, and it's dropping cars in my new layout, these 5 industries. So the next day, the hauler will start out and pick up the empties here that were left the night before, and then go this way, pick up the empties here, and then head back. So now the 2 local areas, which are kind of the old half and the new half. So the local power, it's Buena Park is where they store the local power in real life. I'm not really in that area specifically, but so I'll have 1 or 2 locals here in this little spur track. So it'll start its day, and it'll come out and come to this little mini yard where the hauler dropped, and it'll pick up its cars, and it'll drop at Liberty Vegetable, CPC Cement, Capital Foods, and Forest Plywood. Not all, they probably won't have, freight for each of them every day, because the cement, there's usually probably 5 to 10 hoppers just for that in a day, and Capital Foods is a pretty big drop too. But anyway, that'll be its day, and then it picks up its empties as it's dropping, and then it comes back, drops those empties, or wherever it ends up, drops the empties, and then parks for the night. So the new layout, very similar. The locals, for now, it's going to be parked here. This is kind of the yard we're going to use. In real life, it's kind of 2 long tracks that's before the actual Anaheim yard, but they just don't have room to fit that. So the local here will pick up its load, and then it's going to just head out. This is the street running area, which I'll highlight in a little bit. And it drops at multiple industries of these 5. So we have 1 here, 2nd one here, which we'll highlight these in a second, 3rd one there, 4th one here, 5th one there. So it's going kind of this way. And then this is the last industry. And then there's an X here. That's really the end of the locals line. So now it has picked up its empties, and it's pulling those all the way back through. So it has to run around itself, do a run around move, put the locals in front of the empties, and work its way all the way back. So then it'll come back and drop its empties here for the night, and they're done. And then, as I stated earlier, tomorrow the hauler starts here as it picks up these empties that were dropped and goes here, and it's done. So that's kind of the oh, sorry, and I forgot this last part. So you're probably wondering, why doesn't it go through here? So this is just kind of built for a continuous run loop. So, if I have people over or family, whatever, just want to run the train around and not do operations. So it kind of goes through this area and connects over the bridge. And this is a lift out bridge that I have to build. And it can just keep running. So it's got a pretty good run. I'm not sure the exact amount of feet. Let's see, 30, 40, probably 100, 120 feet maybe. But yeah, in real life, there's actually 3 more industries beyond this point in Orange, California. 3 smaller spots. So just didn't have room to do it. If I could go out of the room, that's probably the next 3 industries I would do. But I'll just stick with this for now. So that's kind of in a nutshell, the overall scheme operations of the whole layout. So the next section, I'm going to kind of go through the new part only and just kind of show some pictures of the industries and how we came up with this. So the first stop is what I consider the Anaheim yard. So here we have 3 tracks. We will have a loaded track or loaded 2 tracks, depending on how many cars I can fit, how many cars are on the local, and an empty track, and then also the local power will be parked on that track, and then the hauler power will be parked over to the left on the little curve section there. In the overview photo, you can see that this is actually a big Y, where heading south is down to the Stanton Industrial Lead, and then west is towards my old part of my layout, and east to the right is Anaheim. So they parked the haulers right there on the Y on the right. So when the local leaves the yard, it's immediately going to cross over the I-5. I think it's like 20 lanes. I'm obviously not going to model 20 lanes of the I-5, but it'll be significant. And also there's a cool, like Disneyland exit sign right there, which I'm also going to model. So immediately after the bridge, the street running begins. In real life, it runs down Santa Ana Street and then turns down Olive Street, and the entire street running is about 2.5 miles. So obviously, I'm not going to model that, so I just have whatever this is, like 12 to 15 feet of street running. So a neat little thing Byron found when he was doing his research was that right in the middle of the first part of the street running is this little tiny, SoCal type market. So I'm actually going to put that kind of in the middle of the street running portion. The idea is to maybe make all the houses kind of nondescript and then have this model be the focal point of the street running. So another interesting feature he found is on the street, and right in the middle of the area is like a just small old orange grove with all these old orange trees. So this ends up at the end of my line. It kind of transitions from the street running to the industrial, but it's kind of a good contrast. It kind of showcases SoCal, how you're in the middle of this industrial commercial area. You have this, this orange grove, just this old orange grove. So we round the turn and finally hit our first industry, International Paper. It's a very large facility, and from what I understand, they get 5 boxcars in and out every day of the week. So that stop should be on every operational load that goes out. So just beyond International Paper is a grade crossing at Ball Road, and I believe they cut the train before they back in to pick up the empties at International Paper, and then they'll bring those out, connect to the loads, cut the other part of the train, back those loads back into International Paper, and then reconnect back to the train. So that'll be an interesting operational feature right here at Ball Road. So next in sequence is a large kind of mini yard area, but it also serves as a plastic pellet hopper transload area, as you can see here by the pictures and the trucks lining up next to the train. So here in the overhead shot, you can see just, I think there's 11, 12 hoppers there on the far track next to the buildings. So that's where the trucks would go to unload, or to load their plastic pellet. Also, I believe in some cases, the local drops some empties there. I believe some of the International Paper empties on certain days, maybe if the train's long, and then I'll just repick them up later. And on my layout, as you can see where I zoomed in, I have more walls of graffiti on some tip-up structures that I'm going to just put there as background building. So yay, more graffiti. So right next to the plastics transload is the first of two lumber dealers on this portion of the line, Crenshaw Lumber. As you can see by the photo, it appears they get 3 to 4 cars, and it looked like, and also from some of the videos, that the furthest spot up, there's a dock that might get box cars for certain types of lumber. So that's a kind of a multi-car stop with center beams and a possible box car. So next on the journey is a stop at Ganal Lumber, but before that, it actually crosses the double Metrolink trackage you see there. So as you can see, this I call this the Ganal complex because there's actually 3 industries here. In real life, there's Ganal Lumber, there is, I think, Propack Plastics, and then ABC Supply, which looks like they do asphalt or something like that, tank cars. So I ended up not modeling Propack or the asphalt, and I will get into what I did model instead shortly. So as you can see here, Ganal looks like it holds 4 to 5 cars, and very similar to Crenshaw Lumber, I believe the last spot could be a box car or a center beam, because I've seen video of box cars coming in and out of that facility. So this overhead shot just gives you an idea how close all this stuff is in relation to each other in real life. You got International Paper up top, plastics down there, and then right around the corner is Crenshaw, crosses the Metrolink, and then backs into the Ganal complex, but it's all real close to each other. So as I just stated, I elected not to do Propack and the ABC asphalt, and instead decided to make up my own industry. So a couple of things were at play here. The plastic facility, I already have a plastic transload, and I wanted some of those new Armin reefer cars, so I wanted a kind of a cold storage maybe facility. So I ended up kind of making up like a boutique ice cream plant / cold storage facility, where the ice cream plant is kind of older, like an older plant, and then the cold storage is a newer place, and they're kind of connected. So I'll have kind of the brand new structure with an older kind of old time factory. The ice cream is because my wife is a big ice cream fan, and it's going to be, I think, like named after her dad, and she has 3 sisters, so something like 3 Daughters Ice Cream, or 3 Daughters Creamery, or Bob's Creamery, something like that, to honor her family. So I thought that was a kind of cool thing to include, and I'll be able to have reefer cars, sugar hoppers, or a hopper, maybe a box car also in the old facility, and then a tank car are also at ice cream plants. I did a little ice cream plant research to kind of figure out what goes there. I found a facility in Tulare, California, which is kind of central California, that has a dryer's plant and cold storage, as you can see above, and that's kind of where I got the idea from. And also, when looking at this other plant, I noticed that the cold storage building on the left in Tulare, was almost identical to the Propack building that I would have put there anyway. So it was just kind of an easy switch to me. Plus, I think it makes it more interesting, and then that ice cream / cold storage plant will be right when you walk into the room. That'll be the first thing you see. So that'll be one thing that'll probably be the last thing I build. So I want to make it like a very cool signature scene. So this last scene came to me at the end of the process where I decided to not do more industries where I could have, and just kind of put this cherry field scene in, which is really cool. It's again like the whole SoCal thing where you have industries and all these people, but then right in the middle of everything you have this nature. So it's just a cool scene, I think, kind of exiting, and it's going to go, it goes under that Highway 57 there, and then it kind of just leads to it's for a continuous run only, and it'll lead to the other part of the layout. And then on the other side of the street would be your industries and your tip-up buildings, which I don't think I'm going to put in. I think I'm just going to have maybe the street there. It's pretty cool. On Google Maps, when I was just researching, I found a picture of this from 2017 with the gensets coming back from Orange, California there. That's pretty cool. And again, just the contrast in SoCal. Right when you turn the corner under that Highway 57, you have the Anaheim Ducks Stadium, this big commercial area, just kind of, and then a little, cherry field just smack dab in the middle of everything there. So as I stated before, that's the end of basically the layout overview. Now I was going to just show some of the design iterations from kind of the beginning, where we started and where it's like 5 or 6 shots of designs to where we ended up. And also in some of the designs, there's little pieces that we pulled out from those iterations that ended up in the final design, which is kind of cool too. So the first step is obviously giving him the dimensions of my room, and this is the old half on the right, and then the new empty section on the left. My room dimensions, I should have probably mentioned it earlier, is about 30 feet length, and then the right side of the room is 12 feet, and then the left side of the room is about, I think, 13 and a half feet. There's a little jut out there. So I'm looking at like 30 by 12-ish. So in the beginning of the process, I did not intend to remove the peninsula that I currently had. So this was the first design. And when I saw it, I kind of knew immediately that to get the maximum benefit of the room, I needed to be able to extend the island all the way up to the other portion of the layout, because we're, just kind of wasting a little space by having the design the way it would have been. So I kind of, right after I saw this, I knew that I had to probably remove the old peninsula. So we moved to the next design iteration. So this was the first iteration of the design using the whole room. And I believe this version has the maximum amount of straight track and the minimum amount of curved track. This is probably my second favorite. I just wasn't the street running is really long there, and then International Paper was really big. But overall, it's still pretty good. And you could see in the bottom section how that's where I was trying to get the Behr Paints part in. And there's just a lot of track down there. So that was one of the drawbacks of this one. I guess I could have changed it up, but you'll see as we go on. So I want to point out something really cool in this part of the design. If you look in there in the center by Ganal Lumber and the red trackage, which is the Metrolink trackage, in real life, the local has to get onto the Metrolink trackage to get all the way down to Behr Paints. So if you notice there, it can switch out Ganal and it has to back up and then go forward again and get on the red track and then go all the way around to get to Behr Paints. So in looking at it from a high level, you can't really tell, but it's a really creative way to kind of put that operational thing into the design. It would work better if obviously I had a bigger space, because Behr Paints is 4 or 5 miles away from this area, but it's just a really cool thing that he was able to do that I wanted him to do, but it just didn't seem right in this small space. But credit to Byron on this one. So this should look familiar, as this is ultimately the version that we ended up with. the starting of it at least. We tweaked it along the way, but this was his, I think, second option. So these next two were just a couple of other options with kind of a dual access island in the middle. I think I like the second of these two better, but ultimately they just weren't going to work. One feature we did use from this one of these iterations was, you see that red line in the middle there where the track runs behind the industry. We ended up utilizing that in the final design behind the ice cream plant. So the train kind of disappears and then reappears. So as you can see from the various iterations, we pulled some items from each one and came up with ultimately a final design that I was very, very pleased with. So now I'm going to take you through a walkthrough of the room. I just have some kind of wood on the ground where kind of a mock-up of where the benchwork would be, and just kind of show you where the features would be. Thanks for watching, and I will catch you on the next video, hopefully with some benchwork. So for this part, I'm going to grab the gimbal and just walk through the layout room and kind of show you where everything will be. It's kind of mocked up on the floor, the new part. So we'll just walk through real quick. So out here is where the staging would be. It's going to be on some of these IKEA shelves. Oops, some of these IKEA shelves along the wall there. So here's where the bridge would be, right when you walk across through this room. It's the entryway. And then this is the old half of the layout, so the hauler would come in. It's going to run past the old section, Liberty vegetable oil, the Rapido cars, CPC. There's Capital in the back, just still have work to do. And it's going to drop cars kind of right here where one of these tracks would be designated the drop, one of them would be designated the pick track. So it'll drop, continue on, link back up. Oops, sorry, link back up to the main line here, which will go over the bridge. And then forest plywood will be right about here. And then the local power for this part would be roughly here maybe. So let's take a look here. So this is going to be the new section, and sorry the lighting is not going to be good over there. There's just no lights yet, but you can kind of see on the floor where I put the wood, kind of outlining. This is the wood from what I took down last week or 2 weeks ago. So over here, this is going to be the yard area. So let's see here. So it's the yard will probably be around here. And then over here is going to be the park. You saw that on the design, and the big bridge and I-5. So right here will be the street running. Let's see. Oops. Street running area all through here. It takes a real tight turn. Real tight turn. You can see my curve on the floor there with the tension cord. So right about here is going to be International Paper spur, which will go back there. And then this way is, so this whole area we're looking at is the island, peninsula, I guess. Peninsula is a better word. So we'll head up. Got our plastics transload to the right here, kind of where my chair is, and then Crenshaw lumber right there where that little jut out is. Continue on across the Metrolink up here where the blue box is. And then curve around. Curve here. So you can see the And then so there's going to be a divider, a backdrop in between the two sides. So where the tape measure will be gunwale lumber, and then all this area will be the ice cream plant. And then we'll take a real sharp curve, or it's actually a broad curve around from the ice cream around here, past the workbench, and over here will be the strawberry fields. And right about here is where it kind of, I guess it'll be crossing here, or it can, and then also we're right back to where we started. So that's like the first walkthrough, which is showing you nothing but my floor, which is awesome. Anyway, thanks.